Kaboom! Wow, look at the smile on that demo man's face. He certainly is a professional demolitions expert because he's a professional at brushing his teeth. Therefore, I trust his skills in his field. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, and welcome back to the wonderful world of Team Fortress 2, where the melee weapons don't matter, and hitting someone with a shotgun is definitely one of the more difficult tasks I've ever been bested upon. Anyway, this is going to be a loadout request by Fennish. Actually, this whole video is going to be a bit of a double feature. The first portion will be a loadout request, and the second half will be another gameplay which I believe I recorded on the same day. But to fulfill Fennish's needs, this is going to be the part where I talk about the loadout request, which is comprised of the Force of Nature. I'm very distracted by the fact that I took so long to actually kill that medic, I'm sorry. The Force of Nature, the Criticola, and the default baseball vampire bat. Righty, so we're going to talk about the Force of Nature starting off. This shotgun, like to anyone who main scout, I am so sorry for this gameplay. I cannot use the Force of Nature very effectively. I'd actually been meaning to make a gameplay with this one for a while. I tested it out a couple of months back, but again, I sort of went on this break from Team Fortress 2, and getting around to playing with the Force of Nature again was definitely a little bit of a difficult challenge. I had to actually make myself aware of the fact that I only had 2 shots. The reloading time is a little bit distracting on this one, and even then, I still don't understand the pellet spread or how much damage one target needs to inflict before the person's going to be knocked away. It's an awkward one. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Now, ideally, most people would recommend that you equip the Force of Nature for a map that is composed of many bottomless pits or obstacles such as giant saw blades, but here I am just using it on the ever-so-classic attack and defend map, Gravel Pit. Otherwise, this is a pretty viable weapon as a scout, but I'd much prefer to have something that isn't a soda or a jar of milk or even a flying guillotine equipped in my secondary slot. A pistol, even though I do not appreciate it very much as a scout weapon, it definitely proves to be very good at chipping damage off of a target, and very good for finishing them off if you just happen to miss both of your shots with the Force of Nature. It's not the most forgiving weapon if you miss your shots. And again, since I don't understand the pellet spread, like you see how I just killed that soldier? I'm honestly not sure how I managed to do that. The Force of Nature is just so awkward that I can't be bothered to ever equip it most of the time. Anyhow, my secondary weapon is going to be the Criticola, of course. And the Criticola just makes things worse. Well, for me, anyway, because you know how I only have 2 shots with this scattergun, correct? Well, if you take the Criticola and you increase my movement speed, that messes me up entirely. It's just that sudden burst in speed really doesn't help, and the critical effects also make me doubly nervous. I'm already nervous by default having the Force of Nature equipped, since I know that there's going to be some serious repercussions if I miss my first couple of shots. And then the fact that I'm running faster, well, it feels like a gameplay changer altogether. The difference between that and the Babyface's blasters is that the blasters was at least a little more consistent. I'm gonna say it is a little more consistent, but that weapon is just awful now. I don't intend to equip that one anytime soon. But to any scout who is worth his dollar, equipping the Criticola with just about any scout primary is a very good alternative, actually. The Criticola goes unloved among the TF2 community, and it's somewhat easy to see why, but if you can adjust to that sudden shift in the scout's movement speed, and even not get distracted by the fact that you have a glowing gun in your face all the time, it's a very good weapon. Especially with the Force of Nature, it can do up to 150 damage if you aim it just right. I get that opportunity a couple of times, maybe once or twice throughout this gameplay, and I'm just gonna leave this death portion right here because it's worth showing off. Anyway, here you can see, 152 damage, that's potentially enough to kill a medic if those bastards weren't already jittery enough. This gameplay will be wrapping up fairly soon. Oh yeah, I haven't talked about the baseball bat. Yeah, the stock melee weapon is going to be the third part of this loadout request, this melee request, sure. Actually, this melee request doesn't exist. This melee weapon wasn't requested to begin with because it was just an alternative I was actually given. I could choose any melee weapon of my choice, and Scout Melee has never exactly been the best. I'll make the exception for the Sandman. So Yeah, the stock melee bat is, it's a melee weapon for the scout. It deals hilarious damage if you manage to land a crit on somebody, and yeah, that's the stock melee weapon. To conclude, I'd chalk this loadout up as being an advanced scout loadout. It's definitely going to be in the good hands of the people if you understand how to aim with any scout weapon and you're good enough to actually land both of those shots pretty reliably. Me, I'm gonna require a little bit more experience before I have a chance to try out the Force Nature and Critical combination again, because it's very powerful. I mean, you could deal up to 150 damage, but understanding how to aim the gun in the first place is also just equally important. And yeah, I'd probably recommend to anyone who wants to improve with this gun in the first place, maybe have a sidearm equipped, like an actual sidearm. Maybe the pistol, the winger, maybe the pocket pistol if you're feeling a little bit cheesy. And that's going to wrap this loadout request up, and we're going to move on to the second portion of the gameplay. We can jump right back into my comfort zone, and this portion of the gameplay, I will have the default scattergun equipped, along with the Sandman and the Flying Guillotine, and did you see how consistent those shots were against that soldier? Even though I wasn't really dealing much damage to begin with, it definitely felt a little more comforting to actually land a couple of shots and deal actual damage, rather than leave it up to chance with my skills with the Force Nature, those skills which are quite non-existent at this point, I would say. We're playing a little bit of Badwater defense. I joined this game a bit late, but I must say, I'm glad I joined it nonetheless because this is potentially the most competitive pub I've ever participated in. We had people using their microphones, NG setting up in the worst possible places, scouts and pyros flanking behind us. It was a little bit of a mess. But overall, it was a good mess, and it felt good to just actually play some regular old Scout once again. The differences in how I play Scout using the Force Nature and how I play Scout using the regular Scattergun is certainly a sharp contrast. I definitely have an easier time hitting people with the regular Scattergun, not only because of those 6 shots, but also my playstyle changes a bit. I'm not afraid to be a bit more lax and sort of stay behind around the mid-range trying to chip off damage off of my targets. And with the case of the Force of Nature, I feel very inclined to get right up in their face and try getting that guaranteed 112, 130, whatever magical number you could get out of that dice block. It's definitely a little bit more of a risk-taking option. Naturally, I feel most at ease having the Scattergun equipped because it also allows me to have the Sandman and the Flying Guillotine combo in my loadout. It already lowers your maximum health, but even so, you have the Flying Guillotine which can deal maybe around 74, 72, 76 damage, possibly. That's, of course, counting the bleed. And you also just happen to have a weapon that can stun people. It's a little bit tricky to use, but if you can use it around choke points such as this area, I mean, Scout in general, on maps like this, you have the Badwater choke point, and this last part of Badwater's generally not what I recommend a place for a Scout to be at, but if you can make it work, just have the Sandman and the Flying Guillotine equipped. You'll be surprisingly effective alongside your teammates who are trying to fight at a bit of a distance, staying further away from those people when you have long-range benefits. Kaboom! Get killed by that soldier on that rooftop. That was a bit of a surprising location for him to be, but hey, it works, so I can't really blame him for trying. Anyway, it looks like this party is going to wrap up in just about a minute or so, and I will leave you with one final request, and that is if you have any particular loadouts that you wish for me to play around with, submit it in the comments or on my Steam group. It's entirely up to you, and I look forward to playing around with them. I'm of course going to get started on the next Serious Talks video if you're going to be following that series, to anyone who cares, anyway. And that's pretty much gonna be the end of this. I apologize if people really didn't want to see this second part of the gameplay and wanted to focus more on the actual loadout request itself, but I think I want to get a bit more practice with that before I try equipping it once more. So, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you all have a great day or evening, and I will leave you with this epically skillful clip of me killing a soldier. Goodbye.
That's why I usually put it when I have enough time to do it.
Someone should really kill that soldier.
I don't know, he's like invincible. I think I did kill him, like, when I had Uber. Oh, you nice lock and load. Oh gosh, oh gosh, oh gosh, oh gosh, oh gosh. I have Uber. You wanna go in? Go in, I have Uber. feel bad for that soldier. He died again right when I got Uber.